Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Good evening and welcome to the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. Unfortunately, this podcast will remain as Andy Takes That Chance because Huddersfield Town were defeated by 1-0 by Nottingham Forest in the playoff final. A painful result punctuates what has actually been a thoroughly fantastic season overall, full of highs and lows, and a reconnection between fans, players and a club that was desperately needed. Joining me to both sulk and celebrate, I have Sky Bet commentator and all-round media whore, Richard Kosi Kosmala.
What a legend.
And ex-Huddersfield Town goalkeeper Phil Senior, who is more man versus food than Sky Bet football commentary. So, you all right, guys? How are we doing?
We're still wounded.
Good
We're
evening.
still wounded, Matt. It's like kind of getting. I've never been run over, but it's like the pain's not as much as it was 2 days ago. But I can still feel my wounds, and it's time's going to be the healer, mate.
So, thank you to everybody who's watching online. We've got over 30 people watching, which is great. So, hello, guys, online, and let us know if we have any issues, as always, and very much appreciate you guys joining us. Okay, so also who we appreciate is Magic Rock Brewing. We are sponsored by Magic Rock, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Richard and Andrew and everybody down at Magic Rock for their continued support of the podcast. You know, it means a lot to us, guys, that you help us out, and hopefully, you know, it'll be a relationship that goes on. Phil, hide that while I'm talking about Magic Rock. Come on. So yeah, thank you to Magic.
Before.
Yeah. So thanks to Magic Rock. Remember, guys, if you want to buy some beers to drown your sorrows from the playoffs, you can use our code AHTTC10, which will get you 10% off all online purchases. Right, guys, let's talk about Huddersfield Town versus Nottingham Forest. You guys in the comments, if you want to put some bits and bats about the game in there, feel free to do so, and I'll read out the best as I get to the end. Okay, so let's first talk about the build-up itself. The build-up, we were all over the place. Cozzy was everywhere. Radio Leeds, Radio Penistone, everywhere. Where there was Huddersfield Town, there was Richard Kosmala. But did this build-up to the day feel a little bit odd and subdued to you guys? It kind of did to me. Even down Wembley way, the fans were, you know, the fan park was quiet. My mate said, you know, no one was singing in the ones he was in. Town fans seemed a little bit passive on the way to the ground. Forest fans obviously very, very giddy and excited as he would be. But it just felt a little bit weird in the build-up to this, because everything just felt a little bit peculiar.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree with Matt. I think, you know what, when they talk about being hungry for it and that as well, I think...
They wanted it, didn't they?
They did, and you know, obviously, you know, God, we don't want to bore ourselves with the tickets and what have you, because any Forest fan that seemed to be in your, you know, kind of eye line wanted to tell you how many tickets they'd sold. But yeah, it did. Really weird waking up on the morning, because it was like, it didn't feel, it was like the, and I wondered if on the day things would be different, but it didn't feel like the kind of shit a bust moment that 2017 was. But I obviously wanted kind of to win it, and I think for me, I don't think the kickoff time helped, Matt. I think 4:30 was a strange time. I also think as well the Giants being there the day before, so quite a scattering of should have been there, maybe kind of hungover or whatever, and that as well. So I think that we're all coming down together, kind of thing wasn't really there. But obviously, I think they were so up for it. They're very in your face. Obviously, we're coming to their support and stuff. And yeah, it kind of felt like someone said to me when we were walking down Wembley way that it felt like an away fan for us. I felt like it felt like an away game. If they got all the box park, did Nottingham Forest and that.
Yeah,
as well, so
and the Green Man as well. They got all the good stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, and kind of we were just shoved in a place. And another things as well, I've not been to Wembley for some time, but the things, there were real loads of developments. I know there were like a co-op on the left-hand side, there were quite a lot of restaurants at Wembley way. And the biggest thing that caught me out was, and probably caught a lot of us out, was no street drinking. That were huge in the day. So obviously word were getting around, people were trying to meet at certain pubs, but I were on loads of groups, you can't get in there. And I was speaking to people that were bumping into around Wembley Park, you couldn't get in this. So I'm thinking, I want to drink here, and you couldn't. And it were like, shit, what do you do? And I think the people who kind of stayed on the outskirts and come in had their better bet. So honestly, it sounds like I love to have a little drink before the game, even though it's obviously on media duties, but not to be able to have that. So I'm like stuck there 3 hours before thinking, shit, what do we do? And yeah, I was caught out a little bit there, mate. So I was just wandering around aimlessly until we could get in and just chatting to people. So totally different to 2017, where I can't remember which pub we were at, where we were drinking and we were well on a high because we'd never been to a championship player final before. So totally agree with what you said, mate. It felt so weird.
Phil, what about you? How was your day?
Yeah, it was a funny one because I came from, well, I don't know where you came from, because I obviously came from north and we're coming down M1 and it was just a sea of red. So as soon as we got motorway, and we set off pretty early actually. We parked in Croxley Green. Yeah, we stayed at Stanmore last time, but we parked up there and it was just a sea of red everywhere you looked. It were Forest fans. We were trying to find town fans and we couldn't. So you kind of knew on the day, well, there's going to be more of the more of Forest fans, so it's going to be a bit different. Parked me in Stanmore, had a breakfast. The worst breakfast, not the worst breakfast I've ever had, that's pretty harsh, but no sausage, no bacon, no eggs.
It's all about food, isn't it, Phil? It all circles back to food.
Shambles. Like I said, like the menu I looked at says, have you not got any bacon and sausage? No. So I had to have a panini at 10 o'clock, cheese and ham panini. What's all that about? Training into Wembley again. There weren't many fans, few town fans, and then obviously when we got in there, it was just red everywhere, making loads of noise. We got off at Metropolitan line, and they got off at the same time, and it were totally different to 5 years previous where. There was a lot of blue and white, and like you say, like obviously, Giants were down there early, and maybe a lot of people had started down there. The walk up was strange. They were very aggressive. The Forest fans. I had my 9-year-old and 13-year-old. They were dirty northern CUNTs, all that kind of stuff, right in our faces. Really strange, really. The behaviours were totally different, and. Obviously walked up to the top, saw Stuart Broad, had a little picture. A little lad had a picture with him, which were nice. And then went into the fan zone, and it was just quiet. I just found it. We spoke to a lot of people in there, and it was nice to catch up with a lot of people from Huddersfield. But it just seemed really quiet. And I thought it's a bit of a random day. It's a bit of a strange way to set up. And again, when we got into the ground. So different to 5 years ago. There was zero singing. I mean, I don't know if it was anywhere else, but nothing underneath the stands. There was no kind of excitement. It was more kind of, well, we're here, so let's enjoy the day kind of thing. And it just felt a little bit strange. And again, in the ground, we were sat on the lower tier and on the back row, and it just seemed really quiet. Our end just seemed really quiet. There were a couple of people singing around us. My little lad, his voice was like that after the game because he just did not stop. But I don't know, it just seemed a little bit, you've mentioned it before, it just seemed a little bit different and, not the same as 5 years ago, but still an enjoyable day. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
unfortunately, my day wasn't as enjoyable due to Forest fans in and around us, which caused a number of violent issues. And, having my missus and my little 4-year-old clinging to each other, terrified at one point, is something that's going to stay with me for a while. And, for those fans, if any Huddersfield fans sold tickets to Nottingham Forest in that end, then you're an absolute scumbag because you put a lot of people at risk and a lot of people in danger. It was a really horrible experience during the game. But I don't really want to talk about that because I've made a complaint to the club and we'll see if anything comes of that. But moving on. So the game itself, some people complained really about John Russell and Jordan Rhodes being on the bench, but I didn't really have an issue with the setup, really. I thought, back three, gone solid. I wanted Hoggy in midfield, to be honest, because I thought, we need to match the Garner and Yates energy, and Hoggy and O'Brien in there, man for man, sort of works quite well. I didn't really have any particular issues with that starting lineup. Just probably a quick one, really, whether you get what you guys thought of it and whether you had any sort of takes on it.
I liked it. Remember when I talked about the Luton game at Huddersfield and I talked about how comfortable I felt during the game. That's exactly what I felt down there on Sunday, minus the early goal, which killed us. The goal just before half-time absolutely killed us because you could see what Carlos were trying to do. You could see we're trying to sit back, soak it up. And they had no answers. They really had no answers for what we were doing. And actually, there were a couple of breakaway moments where a little bit more quality would have made a difference to us. So I have no qualms with the way that we were set up, and I think it works really well, apart from at the goal. It was a soft goal, a little bit more pressure on the person putting the ball in the box, and just a little. We've got 3 players in holding in there that should be picking those runs up and getting the bodies in between, and we just didn't quite do that, did we? And it was unlucky, obviously, an own goal. But yeah, I have no qualms about how we set up.
Yeah, I did, and I think it cost us a sub and a lot more. To be honest with you, I thought Sarr shouldn't have been in. I thought we wasted.
Who would you have had instead?
I thought we wasted someone Sarr. I'd have stuck Hogg in there, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have had was it as well? Obviously, John Russell in, and I think it was the Sarr of 2 seasons ago, nervy, horrible accidents waiting to happen and stuff. And Carlos obviously rectified it at half time. But apart from that, I think Pippa obviously we kind of wind it under the end, but Turton and Pippa toss a coin. I was disappointed with Pippa's performance. I'll be honest with you. He's not the Pippa that before the injuries. Someone said at work today, it's like that Pippa. What were he actually doing on Sunday? Like, although that's a good point. I didn't get what we're doing. Holmes and Sinani were always a dilemma for me because it's like Sinani's such a tough one to work out. And it's quite obviously we'll come on to a release later on. But
it's worked out now, hasn't it?
Yeah, it happened, and I don't know whether that we're always going to be the way. Whether Sinani might come back, you just don't know. Just because it's on that release list. But what Sinani we're going to turn up, and Dwayne Holmes, I think, give us more in half an hour than Sinani did an hour. But the trouble is, you can't really.
Yeah, you know, like what you were saying, and I agree with what you're saying because I would have probably picked a different team to start. But if we didn't concede that goal just before half time, and Carlos made the change at half time like he did, would you look at it differently?
Yeah, exactly, mate. You're right.
It's a funny one, isn't it? It's a funny one because I 100% agree with you, and I think what's been good this year is Carlos has made these decisions and they've paid off for him. And he's obviously had a clear plan as to how he's tackling the first half or second half. And if we hadn't conceded where we had done, that could have been so much different. So much different.
I thought it was going to be a first goal wins kind of scenario. I thought if Forest scored first, we were done. But I thought if we scored first, as long as it wasn't early, I thought if we scored first, ideally 0-0 at half time and score second half, we'd have hung on. It was just one of those things. Yeah. But
it's not often, Matt, that you get. I totally agree. People obviously.
It's not often you agree with me.
No, about 900 interviews obviously before the game, and all I thought was it's going to be awful to watch. It'll probably be set up by 1 goal, and we'll just sit back, let Forest come at us, and we'll try and pick them off. Which is so difficult. That's what I was trying to think when I was driving my solos on about 8 pint after the game, because it's like. You can think that we should have some regrets because, and I get Cy Coppes left us a good voicemail, didn't he, on our kind of message thing, and he said, why didn't he just bring Tino on for 20 minutes, just something different, just try and change it. But obviously he'd kind of wasted that sub and stuff. But it's like, and you can look and think, do we? But this is how we play. This is how we've always played, and I kind of felt right that we died. Even though it kind of sounds contradictory when you die and you sword, it sounds like you throw everything at them and the kitchen, because we didn't really. But we kept playing out, even when it were like 95 minutes and everyone else saying, get it forward. We still were passing it out from the back. And I kind of admire Carlos for that, even though others could look at it and make a point. Well, hang on a minute, you're not doing anything different, Carlos. The Tino one was an interesting one. And we bumped into Tino after in the bar, one of the bars. And he was in good spirits, to be fair. And part of me think, I'd be really pissed off. I've not had a chance to do anything here, but yeah, you're so right, Phil. I can't argue against that you say that.
It's strange, isn't it?
Scored that
goal. Because if he was struggling, if Carlos had been struggling, and we're talking about relegation where it's a game to stay up, and he made the same decision, we'd be slating him, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Absolutely slating him. Why is he starting with Saab? Oh, this is why we're losing. But on the flip side, this is what he's been doing, and it's been working for us. So. Such fine margins, isn't it?
Yeah. So the game itself, I thought, was really dull. If we're honest, first half, Town were happy just to sit off, weren't they? And counter, like we've already mentioned. We had a few opportunities to do so. Forest tapped it around at the back and midfield, perhaps forced a few more issues. Nothing much. Ryan Yates had a really, really good chance, didn't he, with the free header where he probably should have scored quite early on. Yeah. But after that, I really felt like Forest really didn't do anything particularly meaningful. That's probably in part because they didn't have to, because they got the goal and they could sit in. So that's fair enough. Levi, really unlucky. That's come off his knee. It could go anywhere. It's like a sheriff's badge, and it could go either. Yeah, it could have gone out for a throw in, it could corner, whatever. It's just really unlucky, is that. And the second half, I thought Town were a bit more in the ascendancy because they had to. Forest sat in and they were quite happy, weren't they, just to sit in shape as well. Forest good at the back. I thought Worrell got skinned a couple of times, didn't he, by Danny Ward and Sorba in the first half, but he recovered quite well second half. Sorba faded a bit. I think that's down to fitness issues and not playing, isn't it, in the recent sort of last month or so. But Forest fans seem to be making quite a lot about, you didn't have any shots on target, like they dominated the game. But, you look at the 2 shots they had and the probability rating of the 2 shots on target they had ending in the net was 4%. So, it shows you that the game itself, there was nothing between the 2 teams. It was just down to a piece of luck. And Forest got it and we didn't, and that's the way it goes, really.
I'll tell you one thing though, and again, these last 2 games watching on the gantry, honestly, I cannot tell you the stuff that just flies out at you that didn't before. There was so much time and space we had at certain times, but we just weren't good enough with the ball. We just we're not good enough. That killer pass, there were people in a lot of pockets of space, both teams, to be fair, middle of the park.
I've been telling you that all season.
Honestly, mate, it's incredible when you see it through A, sober eyes, and B, like kind of eye up and that as well. And that's what's frustrating. And that's why I'm kind of chilled with it. Obviously, the VAR thing will come on in a sec, but we weren't good enough. We didn't have a shot on target. We had the ball in some really strong positions. I mean, Sorba cut in, and I'm not sure what we were doing there, whether it was kind of a cross shot or whatever, and that as well. And the Danny Ward thing, someone said to me, he should do better, but that was a tough one, first half, and it kind of ricochet. But
it was a great block, block, yeah.
But as passing were poor, I thought it was a bit like Luton in the second leg. I didn't think, we were passing stuff out of play, and it was frustrating early on. Star were passing stuff out of touch, and it kind of, the confidence that we've had bringing the ball forward, I thought,
we were a bit risk averse, weren't we? Very risk averse, and very, very, very much wanted to stay in shape and not make a mistake. And that
Matt,
I understand. We've been doing that all season though, so we can't sort of complain about it now. So it's
do you think if Forest hadn't have scored, we'd have done something different second half? Because I don't think we would. I just think we'd have carried on doing that.
We'd have carried on trying to pick them off on a counter, and then I think we'd have probably slowly come into it. Forest have had this tendency to fade a bit in second halves of some of the bigger games. Sheffield United, Bournemouth, and a couple of others have faded a bit. So I think Town's plan really was to sit in first 45, 60 minutes and then come at them last half hour and try and force something maybe through a set piece. But speaking of set pieces, we're going to have to talk about Mr. John Moss and Paul Tierney. First of all, Paul, John Moss has had his record shop. I think someone's thrown a brick through the window. That's not something at all we would ever condone on this podcast. If you've thrown a brick through his window, you're a bit of a dick, to be honest. Well, a massive dick, to be honest.
Has that definitely happened? Has that happened?
It's in the paper, yeah, that it's been reported. So I don't know if it's a Huddersfield fan. Could have been anyone. It could have just been happenstance. But if it is, it's not good. And it's not. I don't care. It's just not real. It's
weird.
It's
weird.
Separate. You need to separate the football from the real life in some ways there, and that even if he had made 100 mistakes, I still don't think that's deserved. So really poor is that. If it was obviously a Huddersfield fan, but let's talk about the 2 penalties. The contact for me, the Harry Toffolo one for me, is just 100% a penalty. It is so blatant to me. I've seen people say it's a dive, and I'm just absolutely gobsmacked that people can think that. I just can't sort of. Harry Toffolo goes through. Phil, Kosi, I think we've all played football to a level, haven't we? And we've all controlled the ball and moved forward with it. And then if you get a touch, you go. I think the problem with Harry Toffolo is Huddersfield Town players are not used to playing with VAR. They're used to having to maybe make sure they get, shall I say this the way I do, make sure that the referee sees that it's a foul. Read into that what I'm saying. And I think Harry Toffolo 100% gets kicked. 100% you can see it on the video. His foot knocks into his knee. And Phil, you've been kicked like that playing football. It knocks you over. Harry Toffolo makes sure the referee sees it, slightly theatrical. And I think that maybe counts against him. And I think Premier League players are a bit more savvy now, knowing that they don't need to do that because VAR is there to back them up. And I think that maybe counted against him. But I just can't understand why Paul Tierney hasn't gone, do you know what, John? You need to go have a look at this on a monitor and have a look. Because because he was sat next to Lee Hendry, he was absolutely gobsmacked, wasn't he?
That's not a penalty. He was incredible up there because we didn't have one to do with our thing, but I was right next to Lee Hendry, and the guy who commentated, so he couldn't like speak, but he were like penalty. We just like kept saying it, and we lip reading. And you know what? At first, I always think your naked eye is the best one to do. And at first, I didn't think it was a penalty, and neither did the Forest lad. Shock, but then he turned around his monitor, did Lee Hendry, and there were a couple of angles where I thought he's still. Ooh. And then they were warned. It were like, wow, that's a penalty. And it went on, and I thought, he's going to give it here. He's going to give it. And I think the crowd were thinking that. And Colback did the sign of the cross after me. There's no more needs to be said. And then when you get Leeds fans texting you, I had about 8 Leeds fans texting me saying, this is a penalty. This is a penalty. And, mate, when that's happening,
I had a Bradford fan text me. I haven't spoke to for 5 years. Just sent me a Facebook message saying, that's a penalty. And I was like...
You know what's so gutting, Matt? I remember, I don't know if it was on this group or another group, but there were a lot of hoo-ha about John Moss being appointed. And this, I think, is going to haunt me forever, this does that. So, but I said, I don't know what you guys are all on about, because even if Moss fucks it up, the VAR will sort it out.
What did I say though? In the Luton thing though, Kosi? We had two blatant penalties not given against Luton, and I said, watch it be our luck that something like that happens in the final and it goes against us.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's my fault now. I put the curse on us.
So frustrating with his VAR,
thanks, Phil.
Well, I kind of mentioned it, right? And again, why do they fucking make? Oh God! Why do they make it so much more complicated than it needs to be? So cricket, right? You've got an umpire's call. So bollocks to the umpire's call. Is it out? Is it out or not? Forget what the umpire's given. Is it out or not? You've got all this millions of pounds technology. Is it out or not? Rugby league's the same. They give a decision and then they've got to overrule the referee. So if the referee gives a try and there's enough evidence, no bollocks to all that. It's either a try or it's not. Get it right. So that there, clear and obvious. Bollocks to that. Is it a penalty? Is the decision right? It's not. And I just can't. Why are they making it so much more complicated? I want to even take away from like us. What? The technology is there to get the decision right. Why are we having it overruled, and stuff like that as well? And God, don't you get me going before the second one. But Phil, these both 3 sports, it's a simple thing. You've got a video. It's either right or wrong, mate.
You mentioned it earlier, Kosi, and you hit the nail on the head in terms of who's actually using the technology. Cricket, you don't need anybody who's played cricket before to tell you whether it's out or not. If it's hitting line, it's going over wickets, etc. Where's it pitching? It's just that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? The data's there. It tells you what it is. That's it. With football, you've got to have a little bit of understanding, don't you? And going back to it all, he got caught. So there's contact there. Now, contact doesn't always mean that it's a foul. So, but the way that he did make contact, Toffolo's done him big time, because I think the player thought he's going to touch it with his right foot, but he's actually going with his left foot, which meant his right foot's then in line with the player's leg. Then on the contact, he's having to try. He actually, like you mentioned there, he's actually trying to get out of the way. Premiership footballers would have let their legs stay low, dangled it down, made the contact clear and obvious, and that's it. He's actually trying to get his foot away from him, and he's made the contact. So if you play the game, if you're running at pace, once that contact's been made, that foot that's going to be then a standing foot, you don't know whether he's going to be falling over, he's going to lose his balance. And I just can't believe that that's not given. I find it really, really strange how it's clear contact. So a contact in the box, they're saying, yeah, we can argue that. But you can see that his momentum, it's taking him, and you can tell that he's off balance. Stupid dive. We've said this before, like flinging arms in air. If it had just dropped, for me,
I think it's the arms that I think John Moss kind of goes, "You're not fooling me," and I think he kind of.
But it's not a dive. It's not a dive because.
No, but he's a. You know what John Moss is like, don't you?
It's because it's like you said. You've got to have people there that understand it.
Yeah.
There's got to be an understanding there behind these cameras. It's not like cricket. It really isn't. You've got to bring into other things as well. And there were so many things that you could look at in that situation, but it's a clear penalty. You can't. I thought it weren't a penalty when I first looked at it, but
Michael Brown's another one that you were like putting his hands in there, and he'd go back to Champions League final on Saturday, Phil, with that goal for Benzema. Even that Peter Walton didn't have a clue. He didn't have a clue. That's a goal. And then we would explain the rule at half time why it wasn't in. I'll tell you what annoys me, and again, Rugby League finally got it right. You're mic'd up with these people, so you know what they're saying. this is happening, that's in, take it back a frame, blah, blah, blah. You know, cricket's exactly the same. It's missing that. Go back to your football. We ain't got a frigging clue, have we? We've just got silence there for like the richest sport around. What is happening there? What are they thinking? What's the thought process? We're having to guess. Don Goodman, to me, is having to guess why, you know, he's not giving it. And it's bollocks, man. Be transparent. Even if you don't say it when it's happening, say it after the game. Interview Tierney.
Yeah.
Interview Moss. Guys, what has
Yeah.
happened here? And all right, you might not agree with it, but at least we know it's bollocks, man.
Because in those interviews there doesn't have to be any feedback to people. There don't have to be any further questioning. They literally just have to come out and say, this is why I give it. Because they don't need to be put on the spot. Just going back to what you're saying about rugby league, though, I've watched rugby league where there's been clear knock-ons, and they've still been given a try. And I just think it's the people behind the software that really are in question. John Moss, yeah, whatever, we can say whatever we want about him. He's on the pitch and he's got to make that decision. And he either sees it or he doesn't, or he doesn't see it, etc. But to not go to VAR or to go to VAR and not use it like it should be used, for me, is just really strange.
Yeah, just on the Toffolo one, the reason why I mentioned the theatrics was that PGMOL, the referee, you know, the group of referees, sponsored by the Premier League, funnily enough, they brought in a rule last August, which was any exaggerated contact would result in a no penalty. So that's the only thing I can think of, is that John Moss is going, you're not fooling me, that's an exaggerated contact.
So if you're actually fouled and you swing your arms in air because you've been fouled, it's not a foul.
Yeah, they can tell you to do one.
You can't write it, can you? They're deluded.
Yeah,
deluded.
It's strange, and that's the only reason why I can think that they haven't given it. I don't agree with it at all, but that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Matt, do you think that the two incidents against Luton, and it shouldn't do because John Moss is more experienced, do you think, because I asked Keith Hackett this when I did that show the other week, and do referees, especially the ones more experienced, are they influenced by kind of, so I watched the video of him last week and he did this and he did that. So like they've got it in their head when they come on, oh, it's Toffolo, he did this and that. But it shouldn't matter because VARse should like take it out of his hands. But I'm damn sure that must play a part in it.
Well, we did that interview with Bobby Madley a couple of years ago, didn't we? And Bobby Madley was brilliant. And he told us, didn't he, that he would sit and he would study other players and the movements they make and the type of times, how they dive and how they get fouled and all sorts. And, you know, so he would know what these players were like. So obviously, yes, I think you're right. They do look at these players. You know, obviously not everyone's as thorough as Bobby Madley, the greatest referee there is, because he's a Huddersfield fan. But, you know, I do think he thought that, you know, Toffolo, you know, he made a lot of it. You know, he'll have had his opinion on the Luton penalties, both penalties for me. He'll have thought, you know, Harry Toffolo makes a lot of things. He's exaggerating it. I'm not giving it. That's the only possible thing I could think of why he's not giving it.
I mean, I know Bobby is a sound guy, but
it's classic.
Don't you think that's a problem? The fact that they're studying people, because then it's in the head already.
Yeah, familiarity it's an old argument as well.
I think
it's an old, because do you remember Kosi? Do you remember Kosi when Neil Warnock in 94-95 tried to get the referee against Lincoln moved, and there was a big furore about it? Yeah, and the reason he did it was because he was on the video. You can see him going, "This referee refereed us 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he booked Jepson, he booked Bullock, and he booked so and so. He's bound to remember what this was like, and it'll go against us." And you know, I think this has been going on for a long time, so it's an interesting. I
think that's the worst thing. This sounds really bad because this goes against everything that I want to see in football, and Phil, you'll know it at junior level, but for the second one, we should have 10, 11 players round the ref chasing him.
Yeah, that was strange. That
because if that's Real Madrid or that's Liverpool or Man U, whatever, that is, and I hate putting pressure on it. But they would have 2 or 3, and I know the game played on. I don't care. Everyone's like running, and then when the ball goes out of play, we go. I was shocked me as naivety, but you shouldn't have to do that, and it's horrible.
There's a way to do it in there.
Pitch.
There's a way to do it in there. You know, they can show their emotions, can't they? But when it goes too far, that's our problem, isn't it? Because of the fact that they're surrounding refs.
It's horrible.
But you're right. You're 100% right. For me, you've got to have bodies around and let them know.
Yeah, we did for the first one, and you could see John Moss saying, "Go away, we've got VAR." So I don't know if that was there in the head, but we'll talk about the one as well. So I've put a poll out for, was the Harry Toffolo incident a penalty online? 100% say yes, it was a penalty. So I think we've.
Well, what a shock.
I know. I don't think there's any Forest fans listening to this. They're all too busy going to get drunk, as they should be. So, fair play to them. 100%. Let's have a look. So I'll ask if the Lewis O'Brien one was a penalty. Phil, you started talking about the Lewis O'Brien one. Just tell us about O'Brien's move, because it's clever in that Lewis makes sure that he is between the man and ball, and that's what they always teach you, don't they? Get between the man and ball. It's what I'm trying to teach my 4-year-old that, because he's small and everyone in his football class are miles bigger, and I'm saying to him, look, get yourself between the ball and him in a way that a 4-year-old can understand. And they won't be able to get it, or they'll have to foul you, and he doesn't want to be fouled, so he won't do it. But that's a different thing. But Lewis O'Brien did.
Tell him get his Captain America shield out.
Oh, he's all about Hulk. He's all about Hulk, but that's actually really good, actually.
That was on the day. That was the one. Toffolo and I were a bit like that. On the day, that looked like it was a clear penalty from where I was sat. It looked like it come in from behind him, leant into him with his elbow, rushed down. Clear penalty for me. It looked. When I got back to the car, I was looking on Sky Sports, and when it was kind of like the real time, they looked very similar in terms of in line towards the ball, and O'Brien kind of got just a little bit in front and kind of bought it, I thought. So I thought that's maybe might have got that right, because I just think he kind of got in front and leant down.
Very wet.
When it slowed down, you could actually see that the fella, I can't remember who it was, but the fella got his feet caught in between.
Max Lowe, Max Lowe.
Yeah, so his feet were caught in between. So that's another angle that you can look at and say. And again, I just think it was a penalty. I thought it was close. A lot of people. It's weird because a lot of people think that one's nailed on. When I thought in terms of understanding what Lewis was trying to do, he's kind of bought it in terms of getting there a little bit earlier. But yeah, so I just think they're two stonewallers, to be honest. When you're using VAR, I think when you're watching it real time, a bit like when you're using VAR, for me, the two stonewallers. They really are.
Kosi, when I had a really good angle of this, because I was looking diagonally at it from across the penalty box, and I saw the leg hit Lewis O'Brien, and I jumped up and I immediately went, that's an effing penalty, you cheating so-and-so John Moss. So apologies to any families that were around me when I did that, and my own. But, so, and then Lewis O'Brien never appealed, and no one appealed, and I sort of went, and sat down, because I just thought, have I got that wrong there? Because it's a split decision, isn't it? And I was like, have I got that wrong? And then I saw it back. Someone sent me it when I was in the service station, and I watched it when I was in the service station at Watford Gap, and I was fucking raging. And honestly, it's past 9 o'clock, we could swear. But I was so angry when I saw the both. And I was just like, we've been fucked over, essentially, today. And that's this is what really hurts. And do you know what? If this is not an anti-Nottingham Forest thing. Nottingham Forest did what they needed to do. They've had a brilliant season. They deserve to go up and play Premier League football. Well done to them. You know what I mean? Enjoy it. Go and enjoy what the Premier League brings to you. Nothing against Nottingham Forest, who've been amazing this season. Absolutely amazing. But it's so hard to come away from this game and think, do you know what? They've won this fair and square, because they haven't. We've been denied £170 million by ineptitude on a massive scale, and it stings, and it's going to be difficult to get over this, because like you say, the scar tissue from this, I still feel scar tissue from 2011 Peterborough, when their first goal, the free kick, the build up to the free kick was offside. I still hold on to that. It still pisses me off. But these two penalties, okay, we could have missed both penalties. That's fine. Brice Samba could have saved both. It easily happened. We could have skied them both and still had no shots on target. But we should have had the opportunity to take these two penalties. And that's what's really, really annoying. Or one of them. Because, to be honest, if we get the Toffolo one, the Lewis O'Brien, the game changes and the Lewis O'Brien thing may not happen. But Huddersfield Town have been done out of £170 million by sheer incompetence, by a system that was brought in to protect decisions and the integrity of the game. And for them not to even go to VAR is a failure on such a grand scale. And if Mark Halsey is right in what he said on TalkSport, and I'm going to take Mark Halsey at his word because I don't know, but if he says the rules and protocols of VAR were not followed by Paul Tierney, then there are huge questions to ask, and you can understand why Huddersfield Town have written to PGMOL and asked for an explanation, because that's 170 million quid. It's a complete seismic shift. I know we made a bit of a mess of it last time, but it could change the football club beyond any sort of recognition, and what's difficult to take. I can take Nottingham Forest going up and being promoted. That's fine, but I'm struggling with these two penalty decisions. Really struggling. Kosi, help me out because I'm struggling for words now. I can't speak.
It is bad, mate. But what I'll say to you is I see a different kind of view, because Pozza said to us, I'd rather lost 3-0 battered than what happened. But I take a different view to it, to be honest with you, because it'll always be known. I mean, this is, maybe I'm just weird and just kind of getting comfort from something else, but it'll always be known as the final where Huddersfield were screwed over.
Yeah,
I agree.
You don't want that, yeah.
The Forest beating us 4-0, and going up, and we don't know if we'd have scored them penalties. And an extra time, who's to know what would have happened? We might not have won, but I get, obviously we should have had it. But for me, that was, I don't know, it's giving me comfort that we were kind of robbed. It's really odd.
I know what you mean. No, I understand. It's like,
it's weird.
It's like, yeah.
Forest went up, but Huddersfield like an asterisk. And I thought, obviously, there's been a bit of banter flying around. And to be honest, that Steve Cook thing, a lot of people took offence. I thought it was amusing that on his town hall steps and that say, oh, disrespectful. But no, because to me, what it meant is it just what we all knew. We were screwed over. The fact that he went that John Moss up the VAR, they knew it. They did the sign of the cross, they call back. They knew it. We knew it. We don't need, people to tell us, from referees and stuff like that we're wrong. They knew it, and it's just football. Because I'm damn sure if that had been the other way around, Rambo would have had a few beers and he'd been giving it big legs. Exactly the same. So
of course you would.
It kills you, but it goes around. But the worst thing is that I saw something Rick Paddy on about. There's a good chance of it coming in next season. But who's going to have any faith in it? And Matt, if it is, I can just see it now. First game next season, we'll get something that we should have done, and it'd be like, God,
there you go. You've got your decision.
But it's man.
The VAR's fine. It's just the idiots that operate in it. That's the problem.
It is.
But the thing is, so that's going to filter down, though, isn't it? So when you think about how poorly it's been used in the Premier League at times, now think about what standard referees were getting in Championship, and then if they're not referees,
they're on about using VAR light.
Random people,
It's a VAR light version. I don't think penalties come into it. I think it just checks offsides on it, Kosi, or something.
He had a shocking view. Did Moss on the second one though, didn't he? Sorry, the first one.
Yeah, I don't blame.
The second one, he showed the bodies he had to look through.
I don't blame John Moss as much as Paul Tierney. John Moss. There's like other instances during the game where Lewis O'Brien fouled 5 times and no one was booked for this tactical fouling. But I don't mind that from John Moss, because if you cast your mind back to Selhurst Park, we kicked the shit out of Wilfred Zaha, didn't we, all day, and won 3-0. And I remember the Palace fans absolutely frothing. That's John Moss. He consistently lets a lot of stuff go. Maybe he doesn't see it because he can't keep up with play, but he lets a lot of stuff go. But if he misses it, VAR should be picking it up. And my beef is not really with John Moss; it's with Paul Tierney, and that's the annoying thing, because he has all the replays and all the technology to see what John Moss hasn't. And I think this is going to be the last thing I say on it, because I want to move on. I want to move on from it, really.
Well, tell you what, it is what it is, isn't it? Because you can't change it, and it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
There's been a lot of chat, hasn't there, on social media, and rightly so, people upset and stuff. But it's gone now. You can't change it.
You can't. No, that's it. Gone. That's why I wrote that article. It was just like, have a whinge, and then try and get everybody to just, this has happened. Yeah. We now need to move forward. We're in a good platform. And this brings me on to my next thing, which I'm going to throw at you, Kosi, in a second.
So it's just such fine lines, Matt, isn't it? Because Liverpool were miles and away the better team against Real Madrid.
But everyone's been the better team against Real Madrid in that Champions League. They've absolutely spawned that.
That's why we love football, because you don't have to be. But again, the curse for us, we can't bloody score a goal at Wembley in a playoff final again. It's
5 without a goal, 5 finals without a goal, and we've won 3 of them.
Just score, Town.
Chris Billy is still the last Town player to score in a playoff final. It's mad.
We created a Napfall against Sheffield United, Napfall against Reading, and Napfall against Nottingham Forest.
Phil can't believe it.
Keepers have to stand on their head.
Yeah, Chris Billy, 1995, is still the last player to score in a playoff final.
That is ridiculous.
It's funny. It's funny because we've won 3. If we hadn't won those 3, we'd be absolutely suicidal over it. Yeah, Chris Billy.
Spewing out there.
Yeah, do you know what, Cosy? Well, I'll give you a moment, but what we'll do is we'll come on next to the reasons to be proud of Huddersfield Town this season. You know, we'll move on from the VAR issues. You know, congratulate Nottingham Forest, because I think it's important to have some sense or some semblance of class and grace when you lose. And Nottingham Forest are a deserving team.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Enjoy.
Just before you finish.
I know they don't. That's what you're going to say.
Well, I just didn't. On the day, I didn't rate them at all. When you watch them on TV, I thought, oh yeah, do you know?
We did a good job on Spence, Phil.
It's a player. Brennan Johnson, mate. He was really quiet. I thought we did a really good job on him. But it's a player final, isn't it? It's the nerves. The player final. 80,000 people on top of you, and millions watching at home. It's
yeah, I agree.
It's Phil. You know, Phil. When you guys were playing in 2003-04, you had a relatively decent turnout in the stadium and probably a few 100,000 watching it on Sky. And I bet you were sat on the bench going, bloody hell, there's a load of eyes on us. I bet you were nervous.
We were class, weren't we? We dead easy. That definitely weren't the ball. That ball definitely crossed line that he pulled back and notched in there. Definitely.
Yeah, but the big thing was, Phil, that ultimately decided the game. We were worried about him before the game, and I were James Garner. The quality in
his class is a class player. Yeah.
We didn't have the quality money ball in, mate. We had the opportunities, and that was the difference in the match at the end.
You think that was a good ball in?
Yeah,
it was quite. I thought we should have dealt with it better. It was quite flat, wasn't it? But there was enough space. Do you know what? It actually came from a really good Forest move. Did that? It was a really good flowing move. Yeah, he put it in and it hit leave. Anyway, we'll move on. Yeah, Cosy, we'll come to you in a moment for the reasons to be proud of Huddersfield Town, because even Dale Marsden is renewing his season ticket for next season after a year off supporting Golka. That is what's happening at Huddersfield Town. And that is, that's what's going on with the club.
Won a few games, have we?
He's even in the comments. He's listening. He's watching. It's amazing. Dale Marsden is back on the wagon.
Get your lawyers onto him, Dale.
Right. Okay, let's go through. So thank you to everybody who is online and watching. We've got 48 people watching this. Apologies for how it's going. But if you guys could click on the like button and share it and whatnot, this would be really useful for us, because it allows us to put eyes or this podcast under the eyes of a lot more Huddersfield Town fans when they search through YouTube. So that would be really useful. So thank you very much for that. Right, so let's go through what you've got. So forgive me for stuttering through these, but there's a lot of conversation going on, and I'm going to try and skip some of it. Right, okay. Dean Smith says, wonder if we can make it through the night without mentioning VAR. Sorry, Dean, we failed on a grand scale there. So, yeah. Tom Bradshaw says, at least I won't have to do another illustration to add to the title sequence. Phil, you love your little new sequence, don't you, with your head popping over Paul Rahubka's, because obviously...
sounds better. Get him off. Get him off.
JH7 says, one and only point I will make, Moss and Inix in his line, because I've seen him come up loads of times in this since this, but one and only point I will make, Moss and inexperienced VARs in charge of the most expensive game in football is disgusting. If Forest had 2 potential pens, Moss would have been told to go to the monitor, guaranteed. Terrier7N2 says, biggest game in years and we had no shots on target, which is pathetic. I'm also baffled as to why Russell didn't start and Tino should have been brought on instead of Holmes. I personally wouldn't have started Russell because I thought he was really weak in the 2 playoff games and we needed Hogg in midfield. So I'm not with him there, but I am with him on Tino. I would have put Tino on instead of Dwayne. And that's nothing on Dwayne. It's just that when Forest sit in so deep, you need somebody to be able to just do something from nothing rather than just be a flexible, adaptable player, popping up and popping passes off. You need somebody who can have the physical force sometimes to get past somebody and force something. And I thought Tino would have offered that. But I can't complain with Carlos's decision-making this season. It's been outstanding.
If we get those 2 penalties and we score, it's a different game.
Yeah, yeah, of course we could. Right, okay, so moving on. JH7 says, everything about the day was Forest. Jack says, Phil was my PE teacher at high school.
Go on, Jack!
Firstly, I think what we also need to know as well is how good was Phil as a PE teacher, Jack? So if you could tell us if he was any good. And any decent stories about Phil at school would be good. Leo says the atmosphere was poor in the ground. The clappers didn't help as everyone around me was sitting down and content with just using their clappers.
Yeah, Matt, I tell you what. I'm going to step in here. It's something I want to get off my chest. So obviously I'm at halfway, right? So this is where time is picked. So before the game, you had Paul Ramsden and you had their announcer. Now, they were trying to whip the crowd up into a frenzy. So it's like So they played, obviously, Muller Kintyre, and they played their intro. They played the City Ground, Insomnia, which is amazing, and their fans were all over it.
Yeah, they were.
So, Town, what are we playing? Michael Efferley. He's like left 7 years, embarrassing. So Clapper's come out. I just thought, that's shit. Like, and classic, like,
I couldn't hear ours. I genuinely couldn't hear ours. Yeah, I couldn't.
Club. It was like, wow, that's it. And then, no, it making a difference. But I just thought,
I didn't even realise that was our song. I didn't even realise that was ours.
Blue and White Army or whatever. I know it's not going to matter in the bigger things, but it was garbage for that. And I just thought, Forest 1-0 already, mate. They're off the pitch.
I agree with that. Do you know,
Sorry, Phil.
Sorry, mate.
Right, so Dean Smith says, I honestly didn't care that we didn't go up. Said it to my wife pre-game, but I feel how we lost was so unjust. That's the feeling I can't shift. It's a horrible feeling. So Leo's made the thing about the clappers. Gavin S says, how is a breakfast with no sausage, bacon or eggs not the worst you've ever had? There you go. I think that's for you, Phil.
Yeah, that's brown.
I literally just wanted some sausage, bacon and eggs. That's all I wanted.
A panini's not breakfast. Archie Lingard says, not sure why I didn't feel nervous until I got into the stadium. Then after that, I was more nervous than I was in 2017. Tom Bradshaw's back. Says both teams were pretty poor. Best chances was from a free kick. Both shots on target, crap and goal, and the goal and own goal. Max says, got off at Wembley Central and we were surrounded by Forest on the way to the ground. They wanted it much more than us. I agree with that, but I set off slightly later, Phil. I set off about 9:45. And on my way down, I saw a lot more Town fans than Forest. I think Forest fans were a lot more giddy for the day than what we were.
I think they were, weren't they? I think they got down pretty early, didn't they? And I think
they haven't been there for 30-odd years, whatever it was. But
But I were doing like the typical Town, like walking down, it's like, they've not been here for a while.
Just going, hey, you all right?
Yeah. Excuses, aren't you? But at the end of the day, they just had more fans there. They were dead giddy for it, and that was it. Simple as that.
Yeah, fair enough. GH7
I don't understand why they had the box park though.
Yeah, they got both, didn't they? But let's move on with these comments. There's a few to get through.
Really annoying.
Cy Daly, I think that's one of your mates, isn't it, Phil? Says, I actually think we were massively unlucky in so many ways. I think Carlos's game plan worked to treat Forest have blown teams away this year, and they barely laid a glove on us. And plus, the Pens, FML. Jack says, atmosphere was poor, and both teams were poor, really. No shots on target for Huddersfield, and both of their shots were from about 30 yards. Hard to move on. But we'd have been hammered every day in the Prem. Hands of Stone says, wrong move, starting Sarr over Russell for me. Tom Bradshaw, again, Tom. Should have just got Tom on the podcast, shouldn't we? He's been all over it. Forest fans, mostly pricks. One I met, very delusional and rude about our little town. Town fans disappointed for me, though, singing poor. I had a great day around London town. Plenty of ale drank. I think he's still on the ale.
Bradley, Town fans.
Yeah. Danny Ward, chance from the corner was massive as well. Jody Calvert says, we came out of the ground on the final whistle accepting that we'd not done enough. Then we saw, I think Jody speaks for all of us here. Then we saw all the outrage via text and social media. My whole feeling changed, struggling to let it go. It was a Sheffield United fan that we collaborated with who does Shoreham View, who was messaging me about the penalties. And then I looked at them because I was just quite happy that VAR had done its job. And then I saw them, and that's when I was just like seething. But let's come through. Depressed Terrier. Cheer up, cheer up. My hate for Forest is up there with Leeds.
Oh, don't you dare!
It'll go. It's just a momentary feeling. Dale Marsden nailed my thoughts. Jody Calvert. Richard Hookie says, I like the starting lineup and it worked. If not for the freak goal, last few games I had seen Forest play, they had struggled second half. Tom's all over this. Robert Large says, my biggest annoyance is that the opinion that we didn't offer much and Forest were better first half. That's uninformed and not accepting of how we have played a lot this
Yorkshire
season.
Post guy, Stuart Rayner, said they absolutely dominated the first half. I don't know if
they had 68% possession, but it was just
didn't feel like that.
Possession. There were possession that we know, Phil, that possession is built just by passes, not by how long you've got the ball. And if I stand next to you and I go tap 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 tap, and we just tap 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 tap, and then Kosi nips the ball off us and sticks it in the net, we've got 100% possession and Kosi's 1-0 up. What's more important?
They should have scored with an header, and they scored in the play, and we created absolutely naff all.
One of them ones. Honestly, it was so annoying. I turned out to my dad. And I says, we've played this an absolute blinder here. 43 minutes off it, or 42, whatever it was. We've played this an absolute blinder. I says, but it's the worst time we could concede if we do. Boom, goal. For me, I thought we played it absolutely perfect.
Right. Michael Foster says, let's be honest, if those penalty shouts are Johnson going down at the other end, they're given. Matt says best part of the day was dissecting how bad it was with a pissed up Tom Bradshaw at a Weatherspoons at St Pancras. A drunken Tom Bradshaw is a lot of fun. I can attest to Tom being drunk at Luton. He's a good laugh. We've got all sorts going on here. So Jodie Calvert again. Don Rico III. That's a great name. For me, Holmes and Russell should have started. Sarr and Sinani on the bench. We seemed a little too passive, and I think Forest expected that. Holmes on the half turn helps to make the transition at pace. It's a good point. Let's move back through. Dean Smith says, we had a bloke behind us who constantly moaned about the non-singing, so tried on his own. That could have been me. The fact that he was singing Blue and White Army wrongly was lost on him. That definitely wasn't me. He then slagged us off. Fun. Dale Marsden says, disappointed to lose at Wembley, but this is the most optimistic I've felt about town for years. Feels like the start of a new project. Recruit right and we can compete again. Dale's fully back on board, isn't it? Golka's lost a fan. It's
because he's a dad, isn't he? He's mellowed now.
He's changed. He's
changed him. Fatherhood's changed him. This isn't the Dale. It must be an imposter.
Yeah. It's Terry72 says, I'm hoping Carlos can get the players in for how he wants to play and not how the players have dictated or wants to dictate. I'm just trying to skim through with quite a lot, so apologies if I'm missing these. There's a lot of general chat. Dag Barnett says it's very easy to be critical of our performance. Cozzy, watch what you're doing with the mic there, bud. It's very easy to be critical of our performance, but the nature of game dictated the tactics of both teams. The game was decided by fine margins, and we were on the wrong side of it. I think that's very fine. There's a little bit of chat about the penalty as well, and JH7 says it's irrelevant whether Toff makes Moss see it. Moss sees Kane, Salah, De Bruyne go down and doesn't hesitate in pointing for a pen. And a lot of it is quite similar. Dag Barnett says, I think over 90% of neutral observers thought we were hard done by. Normally that makes me feel a little better, but not this time. I want to move on as quickly as possible. And even John Terry, JH7 says, was played. John Terry, who almost played for us once upon a time. And the last few, there's a few about Forest players have since admitted they were lucky with penalty appeals and whatnot. And was Lewis O'Brien a penalty? 96% this time I've said yes, but I think one person has said no. Trevor Sinclair is convinced that the Premier League pick who goes up from the Championship in favour of bigger clubs. He did put that on Twitter and then deleted it, but there's a couple of people who have taken it.
What, the actual Trevor Sinclair?
The Trevor Sinclair said that the Premier League pick and choose.
Falling from grace, Trevor Sinclair.
There's a lot of...
I've got no time for these conspiracy theories, me and that.
There's a lot going round, and I'm not gonna. It's a rabbit hole, wormhole, whatever you want to say. If you get down there, it's not worth it.
I'll tell you what though, what a day. So honestly, I was living the dream. It was you know, sometimes you go to bed and like you'd have these dreams and wake up, all right, forget the result. It's just so I'm there like we had accreditation. So I had to queue with like all these journalists like come from around the world. There's me and my township with baseball, like looking like I've come out of a cherry tree and that. And it's like,
because is it another video? You're doing it.
It's coming out, mate. That's the final end of the pain. Yeah, it's.
Are you like this again?
Mate, we had to sit down, but yeah, that's just like we're like jumping hungry.
Need to get some music on that.
Oh, so anyway, we goes in. It's like, excuse me, sir, can I help you? Like, I just pointed to my past like Sky Bet commentator, up yours, mate. So like. In we go and gets through this lift and can I help you. Like, 'cause honestly, it's just like Wembley's just like a big maze of nothing, and then just gets up to this lift, like press accreditation. So like the press lounge, so goes in there, and it's like, oh, and then by the way, it's like we're over there in that gantry, so like totally opposite end of the pitch. So like, how are we going to get down? So anyway, we goes underneath, like, and all these like tractors and you know that stuff they lift out when they've won and stuff and. Honestly, it was just, I can't stop thinking about it. This guy just opened this massive metal door, and there we are on the side of the pitch at Wembley. So a guy from a lad, so excuse me, sir, can I have an interview? We're like, who's this? So like, I'm from Lad Bible. So I don't have a clue who what, but this guy, so we basically had to, he didn't get put out in the end, but he had to talk, the Forest guy had to talk up about Brennan Johnson. I had to talk about Sober Thomas, who were the best, so we were kind of having a jousting. And then I had to walk right across the pitch past all the Forest fans who I get some right hammer from. And then, honestly, this is where, like, honestly, if I could have been finished, you put me in a box, I would done. Gets this lift up, just opens this big door, press gantry, and this Daniel Mann again, Don Goodman with this amazing waist jacket, Lee Henry Macabre, there's all like the press. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm sat here like 80,000 fans, there's about a commentator on like my own local team, like the biggest, richest game in the world. I thought, just pinch me here, and it's like incredible. And then, obviously, you just get involved with it, but it was just like
they might have turned around and gone,
You what, mate?
They might have turned around and gone, "Oh, look, it's Kosi."
Honestly, it's just incredible. I mean, to be honest, I can't remember my reaction to some of the stuff. Obviously, it's going to come out on that as well. But are we moving on, Matt, to what makes us proud?
Yeah, I'm going to say that I quite enjoyed that. It sounded like Kosi and Charlie Bucket and Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, didn't it? So
15 minutes. What is it? 5 minutes of him or 15? What's that film or song or whatever? I don't know. But yeah,
why are we proud? Why are we proud?
I could only feel pride, Matt. And you know what I was thinking? This sounds bad, but I was thinking like as it was slipping away, and especially after that second decision, I was feeling like kind of really aggrieved. But all I could feel were pride and not real sadness, but just appreciation. I just wanted to run on that pitch at the end and lift everyone up. It was weird what you saw because I don't know whether you had in your hands or just walked out, you guys, but I think it was Lewis O'Brien who went charging off to the sidelines, clapping everyone, and I thought that's him waving goodbye. But I just wanted to all everyone up thinking, you've not, honestly, like we got more points than them, we come third. We were just denied by like shocking decisions. Okay, we didn't create a right law, but all I could feel was total pride where when we lost that one against Peterborough, I felt totally different. I know, Matt, you remember that first goal, what have you, still got that in your head, but...
Still mad, still angry.
I just felt, and Dale mentions it again, and I've kind of toyed with this all the way back, because I've said to you, Matt, that it wouldn't be surprising me if we finished 40th against you, because the division makes no sense. But then I thought, well, hang on a minute, we've got guys who've had a taste of it, who are proven winners. People like Lee Nichols, hopefully that we can keep hold of them all. Obviously, Toffs, we don't know O'Brien, but there's people in there who's had a taste for it who are real winners. There's people who's going to look from the outside of the club and think, wow, Huddersfield Town, they're the club on the up now. We are, you know, we've got a foot in. And yeah, I'm damn sure the recruitment team's got like a list of if we went up on, if we didn't go up. So I'm just full of, the pain's still there, but I'm just full of promise and full of optimism that these guys who I've had a taste of like the, you know, kind of the big time, they're going to want it more again. And while, yeah, you might think, well, they're another year older, which might concern me one or two. And all I can feel is like we've got us club back, and Toff's put that on that Instagram, and that were it for me. You've got Huddersfield, we've given you your club back, and I've said it for ages on here that we've never. I felt the club wasn't part of me anymore. The stuff that the people we had running the club, you know, that as well. You know, the guy from Brentford who left us and that as well. I couldn't associate with him, and there were a lot of other stuff going on, but. I feel like these guys have taken on this amazing ride, and what's left from the wreckage, kind of, if that's the right word to use, is we've got us club back and something to build on, and it makes me feel mega proud. And I love the fact walking down Wembley Way, and I love the fact I can walk around at work like they know I'm Huddersfield Town. They know what Huddersfield Town means to me. They know what we're about now. We put us with clubs back on the map, and I just kind of felt so. I didn't want to cry. I just felt so proud that Huddersfield Town's my team, and no shame at all, mate. And it was a strange moment because I thought it was going to be different.
I've got a mate who, when you say we've got our club back, doesn't know what you mean. So expand on that and say what for his benefit. What does it mean? Like club back. Expand on what you mean by that.
For 3 seasons, Matt, we had people, and this is what we'd have had to done if we would have gone up. And I was chatting to West Brom fans, I remember, before the game, and they were saying we were sick of people coming in. So you'll see next year Alex Pritchard in a Sunderland shirt getting a nice ovation. You can't be. I just felt we had guys there that didn't care about Huddersfield Town. That, you know, and we've had it backed up from people who were in there that weren't there. They run us into the ground, and it's up to them. They were contracted till the end. They took every penny out of us. They didn't give a shit. We had people who didn't want to run for the ball. You know, to work in a Carlos team, you've got to run your bollocks off. You've got to, you know, train hard. You've got to come in every shift and train hard like we under David Wagner. You can't, you know, just put it in when you want and that as well. You had people who cared. We had the wave back. We had, you know, when you went down to the ticket office in the club shop, you had people greeting you and stuff like that as well. And there were people outside of Huddersfield who kind of could see like what is going on here and that as well. You had some like Sorba Thomas. We went to Boreham Wood on the Monday. The guy were unbelievable. Let us through the ground. Says, we're as good as you are. Says, really? Says, yeah. Says, we'd have had a lot of money if you'd have gone up. But Sorba Thomas, what a man! We're so proud of him and stuff. And we've all got them little stories as well. There were a nice article, I don't know if you saw it on the Square Ball article about Tom Lees and that as well.
Why would anyone see that?
Premier League, he's brilliant though. And it just shows there that, so there's a character there that is obviously well loved and well thought of in the game, even from like kind of Leeds United angle. So you've got guys there, Lee Nichols, that were in that Stephen Chicken interview where, with Paul Clement, where he was kind of hinting that there must have been a couple of off the field issues and in his life and that as well. And all these little backstories, we were brought closer to our players with these, you know, the way they behave and the way they give the interviews, the way they've done the social media. All these little things add up where I couldn't associate with it 2 or 3 years ago, Matt. Even like under Danny Cowley, to me, it was just all, you know, it was just all bollocks, mate. That kind of made no sense and stuff and that as well. And I think you can even kind of thank Phil for that. It's like got rid of kind of did what done what used to be done. I just feel like when I put my shirt on Huddersfield Town, it means something to me and that as well. And I've got this old shirt up before, like when we were really struggling and stuff. Some of the autographs, I'm thinking, they get nowhere near. And if I'd have said to you at the start of the year, Matt, like Josh Crummer wouldn't have even made the bench, mate.
Oh, mate. Look how big I was on Josh Karoma.
This shows how far we've come. The club's on another level now and that as well. And even though it isn't, because obviously we're still in the Championship, I just feel like I belong to, you know, it's all about, I mean, when you're hearing people like Dale there coming back and others signing up again and stuff like that as well, we'd lost what we were about. And I think we even admitted that by a couple of people interviewed. We'd lost what we were about and we'd have had to maybe lose that again because the players obviously had had to move on. But in a way, we've got so much to build on. And yeah, just for me, that's what it means to me, mate. It's not about, you know, for me, winning and losing a lot of the times. It's about what the people represent in the building. And to me, they run through a brick wall for us at town. So I will give that back.
That's good. That's I'm sure that answers that tenfold. So I will make sure that he hears that. Right. Okay. So reasons to be proud. I think you've covered everything really there. So I think I've asked the question as well on YouTube. So I'll read out some responses because there's some quite good ones actually. Tom Bradshaw put a really good one a few minutes back, which I'm I think he's deleted it. He's deleted it. Unbelievable, Tom. Unbelievable, Tom.
Come on, Tom, just own it.
Don't
hide it.
I think I remember what it said. It said something along the lines of, I went to the Cock and Tavern pub and I saw a cat on a stool and it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. I just thought it was really funny. So, yes, let's find out where we are. Right. Okay. Jody Calvert says, because we have a team that works hard again and have the right attitude. They actually care, and that's worth so much. Gavin S says, humbling Fulham on their own patch. Tom says it was good to see how many Town players stayed to applaud the players. Town fans stayed to applaud the players. Robert Large says, proudest moment was Fulham away. Nobody expected that. Tom says, your day sounds class, Kosi. Here we go. Here it is. I was in a pub called the Cock and Tavern and they had a cat sat on a stool at the bar. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Doug Barnett says, proudest moment, seeing progress and getting our identity back. The improvement over the season has been heartening and it is something to build on. Richard Hookie says, just happy to see and hear fans being positive. Still think we need the 2017 atmosphere back. Feel the team morale is possibly the best I've ever seen. Max says Fulham away as well. Big two fingers up to the pundits. Joanne Parker says the feeling of being a family club again, which is always important as well. And then Tom says, haha, Phil eating throughout this passionate speech from Kosi. Matt says, proud that loyalty in the manager was repaid. Yeah. Would have been easy to sack Carlos Corberan, but we stuck with him. And I think for the coming season, we definitely have the best manager in the league. Just needs the tools.
Matt, so can I just put in on that? That's another thing that kind of fills me with Carlos. Some of them interviews, because I've got to be honest, I struggled sometimes to kind of get his gist. And then that interview with Ian Holloway, I don't know if everyone's seen it, but
yeah, it's good. It's a good one.
Guys saw it. It fascinated me because I just saw an obsessive there, a guy who lives, drinks Huddersfield Town. I don't know if you saw the thing that was quite funny when there was a press conference just before, I think Thursday, and someone said, have you got a message for the Huddersfield Giants? And he were like, and then someone tried to explain, they're in the rugby fan. Oh no, have you spoke to Ian Watson? And no, I haven't had time because I've been watching countless videos of Forest and stuff. This is a guy who I think we've got to match his ambition. So this is what kind of excites me a little bit for next season, because we've said, has Dean got his mojo back and this, that and the other. Mate, they're going to have to, because Carlos, he wants to take us on to the next level. You know, Tom Lees, he wants to have that go at that next level. Lee Nichols, you know, Jordan Rose, whether it stays goes, or Brian, who knows. And I just think we've got a manager there who just wants it so bad. And it's almost like I could just imagine Carlos will be on like a beach in about 2 days, and then with about 20 minutes, or an hour, bollocks to this, going looking on YouTube videos for players to sign. Mate, it's going to be relentless. I think it's just exciting times, and and on obviously Sunday you're wounded, but I just think the future's really good. Hopefully the season cards will keep piling in. Maybe Dean might bring the prices back to whatever, and I think we can have a really good stab at it next year and that as well. But the only thing is, we'll have to people will be ready for us, so we're going to have to go up again. But yeah, let's do it, man.
Tom Lee's the Nesborough Nester. Matt says about the pride. Dean Smith says, having lived in Nottingham for the past 15 years, I can confirm that Forest fans are far worse than Leeds fans. They are vile. Totally live on the Clough era past. Bob Large says, second proudest moment was welcoming Michael Heffeler back in his current role at the start of the season. And I think that's a really good point, actually, because Michael Heffeler helped bridge that link, didn't he, between the playing staff, the club, and the fans again. I think that was a really good move from the club to bring Michael Heffeler back as well, and it definitely brought some interest back to the club as well. JH7 says, the Premier League is awful, Kosi, but it's the money. We would have learnt our lessons from 3 years ago, and 170 million would have just given us a debt-free club and a chance to challenge every season in the Championship. Rani says, pride, passion and desire is all I ask from town, and I feel we have got that team back, which Dale Marsden agrees to as well. So we'll move on to our next point. Phil, just mute yourself a second. I think there might be some feedback coming through your iPad. Cheers, mate. Right. So we've got a couple more things. We've just got the Dean Hoyle news and the retained list, and that's about it for this evening. Dean Hoyle to repurchase, I think that's the right word, 100% of the club. The story was broken by the Daily Mail. We've had no official confirmation from Huddersfield Town, really. So we will take it as a rumour. I threw out an article. If you've not seen it, it's on website, takesthatchance.com. I think there's a lot of questions, really. I think most Huddersfield fans will be pleased to see Dean back, especially if it's the Dean, which is, has that mode, like you mentioned, Phil, has that mojo back, and, the excitable one that's, wanting to, put his stamp on things. I think everybody will be quite excited to see that version of Dean Hoyle back. But there's probably a lot of questions, with regards to the debt, what's happening to the debt, in terms of what his plans are, what he sees as the ceiling for this club. Do we want to go for this top 30 club, which Phil put in place, or are we happy just selling players, bobbing along? I think fans, and I'm sure he'll come out with it when it's ready, but I think some fans will just want to know, okay, Dean sold the club for, illness reasons. Is he back, excited, and et cetera, et cetera? But Phil, pretty good news that the future of the club is going to be sorted out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, from the past and what Dean's done for us, is the kind of person that I would want at my club doing what he's doing, 100%. And I just think that, by getting the information out early for people to understand where we're going with things and what's happening, I think is really key. So I know it came out from the Daily Mail and stuff, and it'd be nice, to know what is exactly happening. But for me, 100% faith in Dean. Obviously, we've spoken before about the debt and things and how it's paid back and what have you. But I just think, I trust Dean. He's a Town fan. That's my own opinion. It comes across really well every time I speak to him, and I just think that, I'd rather him be around the club than someone who we're unsure of. So you guys probably have a little bit more understanding of it all than me. I don't really look into that kind of side of it, but I think for me, just as a person, I don't know, but I think just for me as a person, the way that he's come across and his love of the club, I think is the ideal person. Just on the flip side of that, obviously, you talk about money and how we're going to invest, and I hope we do something very similar, and I hope we try and bring in hungry players, free transfers. I'm more than happy with. I don't really want to speak too much about what goes on in the club. I've obviously got a lot of friends there, Scully and Worthy and things, but they're very, very impressed and excited about the young talent that what we've got at the club as well. So and like I say, and that's from Bromby and down through the lads. And
Bill, did you read that? Did you read that article this morning with Lee Bromby and Stephen Chicken? I don't know if it was done before the final or after, but it was so fascinating. Basically, it was saying someone like Sober Thomas, like what, and they were saying they kind of got real people around him that has helped him develop him. Yeah. Comparing it to Sabiri, where they kind of held their hands up and think they had a guy there with kind of real ability, but didn't I kind of have the right, I don't know, nutritionist or people to look after him, and said they'd learned a lot there. So it was fascinating to hear. It's almost like, if you're going to get projected players in, you've got to have the right kind of backroom staff. Because I've always thought, we've got quite a lot of backroom staff now, but when you hear how kind of Solver has moved on and come on and that as well, it's clear the club have learned massive lessons from that. Fascinating interview, mate.
I've had a good chat, and I won't say who I spoke to, but it just sounds like things are right. The things are really in place in that kind of academy / B team / into first team setup. It sounds really thorough, and it sounds, I've not seen much of the players, but it sounds like there's a fair few players who are really exciting that are coming through. How they'll move them into first team or whether there'll be more loans, I don't know, but it really does sound exciting without me really seeing them, and that's having a bit of trust in people. But again, Dean's been in position now for most of the season. They've got that relationship together, so fingers crossed. However, we talked about this, didn't we? Like a plan B and a plan A and plan B, and hopefully the plan that's going to be in place now is a real solid plan where we can kick on from where we have done this year. Because fans have said, we didn't have a shot on target, blah blah blah. Have you seen some of our games this year? Some of our games in second halves have been pretty boring, and we've grafted a win, or we've had a certain tactic and structure without. So if we've got that already and we can build on that, who knows where we're going to go.
Didn't have a shot on target for 3 months under Mick Wadsworth, so that's progress.
Exactly.
So Kosi, I'll get your thoughts. Like I say, if we get the Dean Hoyle back, I remember the early Dean Hoyle. He was from Ken Davies. Ken does what Ken does. I'm a Huddersfield Giants fan, so I understand, Ken Davies done very well for Huddersfield Giants, and he has a very different approach, which is not in terms of being in front of the media. He likes to sort of sit, although he loves it going on the pitch when they do well and stuff like that. He likes to kind of like be in the background, really. But whereas Dean, he like throws himself, and he's accountable to the fans. He's always very, very, he won't shirk anything like that, which is really good from an owner. He's always there. He's accountable. And if we get the Dean Hoyle, which is exciting and wants to do things, I'm quite excited and pleased with that, cause.
Much is going to depend on O'Brien and Toffolo if they go, and more of the, what's going to be spent back, because it's a tricky balance in that, because I think it sounds like the stadium needs some repairs and there's all the stuff on that as well. But I think Dean's not daft; he will know and stuff as well. But Carlos will expect, because he kind of said there is almost like you've got free transfers to work with it. I don't know if this were another article or examining one, but I just think a lot of people, and probably me as well, Dean might not say a right lot, but right, okay, O'Brien's gone for X million or Toffolo, so we get a little bit. How much is that going to be pumped into transfers? If we bring like 5 bits of quality in and that as well. And I think the hardest thing is it's the loan players that are massive. If you look at what's got Forest up, it's their loan players, and you don't get them until right till the end. It's like sometimes it's the season started, isn't it? Until you can kind of get these stuff. So it's we might have to be patient until the end of the window, but surely the recruitment team and certainly the management team have earned that right for that next season. So I just hope that we don't get in July. A lot of town fans, well, we haven't got anyone, because I suppose what you got to remember, Phil, and you mentioned it there, it's like Edmonds Green. So Edmonds Green for Sarr probably looks like how it might work out, but and
there's a left footer, isn't he, now? But it's like Carlos likes left footers left side, and Romani's very right footed, isn't he? So
but Edmonds Green's coming back a better player rather than absolutely
sure.
Step down.
I think you made a good point there, Kosi, in terms of the loans. I bet it's really difficult to put in like a manager's coach's head on, to really difficult to have that idea that you do want a loan, but you've got to wait and you've got to be patient. And if it don't quite pay off, and you could be down a position and down a player, and I bet it's really difficult to try and wear that out and to work out what your best options are. That's
where Town's relationships come in really handy, and David Fox as the loan manager as well, because Town have got a really great relationship with Chelsea, which has paid off over the last sort of 5-6 years. With your Izzy Browns, your Casey Palmers, and Trevor Chalobahs and whatnot. So Town have done really well from Chelsea.
Well, the day before ours, having a better day at Wembley, was Mr. Kean Harrop.
I was going to mention that. That was. Did you see his interview as well afterwards?
No, I didn't see that.
He said, "Come on, Huddersfield." It was really, it was brilliant.
Obviously, Phillips has done a decent job at Exeter, so
he's got an eye for goal, hasn't he?
It's obviously a massive step up and stuff, but yeah, and then obviously got I forgot his name. Is it Harrogate who did well as well?
Diarra, yeah. Josh Osterfield's got in a little bit there at the end as well. So yeah.
So, but Carlos, obviously,
This,
John,
the Etienne Kamara sounds a player.
Yeah, he's
John
one I'm
Russell.
excited about. Yeah.
So we've got that to John Russell's coming up, but yeah, it's going to be fascinating. But I just think what's happened this year, I think other lone players that have probably looked at Huddersfield Town, okay, Smith Rowe were an exception, but they'll think, why do we really join this club, you know? But Carlos' stock is high and he's improving players, footballers like Matty Pearson were like playing like Cannavaro this season, and it's like
Heathcliff Cannavaro, yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, it's such exciting times. But regarding Dean, it'd be interesting because it's been under the radar Dean this time, and that as well. Obviously, came out with that first program note and had a little pop at Phil and what have you. But after that, he did a little interview with Raiders, but not a lot. So it'll be interesting. It's kind of scary how ages go up, but 54, I think it said it was up a day on a
55, yeah.
Jesus Christ, it's like kind of getting on, but yeah. Then
Who's 55?
Dean.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting, but yeah, I mean, you're looking around these other ownerships and some of the scary stuff we keep seeing in the papers.
Burnley, that Burnley thing scares me. That 65 million that they've got to repay to the owners who bought them. I just can't wrap my head around that. But
that'd be interesting.
I'll read some comments out because the Dean stuff has caused a ripple, shall we say. Dag Barnett says Dean Hoyle needs to communicate with the fans again. Get him on, takes that chance for a Q&A. Honestly, if Dean wants to come on here for a Q&A, he'll absolutely ruin us. You know, he'll take no prisoners on here. It'll be great. But if he wants to come on here and we can do this live and people can ask questions, that terrifies me. Does that? But but if he ever wants to come on here and do a Q&A and we can do the YouTube questions, and obviously we're decent lads, we wouldn't ever say anything which is rude or anything to him. He knows that. He's been in my house. I've made him a coffee. So, you know, if he ever wants to come on, we would absolutely be delighted to host him, and it would be a real thrill to do so if he fancied doing that. Bob Large says Dean's biggest asset isn't his money, it's his ability to connect with the fans and give us insight into the club from the openness and things that with the Q&As. And he's right, because Dean's got a really good gift from being able to say the right things at the right time to keep the fans engaged and excited and enthused. And, you know, he's done that brilliantly over the last 10 years, and it's a good point from Rob. JH7 says, let's say Dean sells Lewis and say Toffs for combined, for example, 15 million. I hope Dean will reinvest 3 to 5 million just to improve on what we have. That with very good loans again and would ensure a decent challenge again, which I think adds on to what you were saying earlier there, Cos. Tom says Lewis potentially going for 12 million is a sad prospect. And Leo says if we lose Lewis and Toffolo, I don't see us challenging. I think most of it is around about Lewis then, who people think is Premier League bound, which probably is. And Tom Bradshaw says Peter Clark, 40 years old, has just signed for Walsall. Legend. Peter still playing at 40.
Robbing a living he is.
Oh, Tom Bradshaw. His drawings aren't that good. Is that what you're saying?
Clark,
That's amazing. Didn't know that.
40 years old. That is pretty amazing. I'd love to
I bet he still want it finished in team as well.
Yeah, I'd love to get Peter Clark on here.
He absolutely loves football.
Yeah, brilliant. We move on. Retained list. So we're just bookending the podcast now, the retained list. So let us know online what you think of the retained list. It was as expected-ish for me. Contract extension. So we've taken the 12 months on Toffolo and Josh Koroma. Harry Toffolo, we would be delighted if you sign a new contract. We've been asking you every week to sign the contract on this podcast, or I have. Hopefully, I think he's getting married over the summer as well, judging by something he put on
just
Instagram.
Sign it. It's getting boring.
Yeah,
now.
just
he knows he wants to.
You sign your nuptials, you sign your marriage certificate, sign your contract as well, Harry. While you've got a pen in your hand, get everything done. Let's do it, and hopefully we'll get him for another 3 or 4 years.
He's holding out for Bradford now. It's City Culture 2025.
Well, they can have him in 2025. We'll have him for the next 3. Any surprises with the released lot for you? Because obviously Naby Sarr, that's caused a bit of a stir. Jamal Blackman surprises me. The Jamal, but
Vallejo, I'm a little bit gutted about him because he's a real player.
Yeah, isn't he?
And I get it, and I think it's a good decision. I mean, imagine how much money we're freeing up in terms of wages from some of these players, and that we can possibly bring in from that. But he just had so much to offer, didn't he? And we didn't quite see the best of him. And
yeah,
he was a real player. He could have taken
classy.
He could have moved us on to another level there in terms of the way he plays. And you know, obviously Russell came in and tried doing a similar job, and he's done well. But you know, I'm really, you know, a little bit upset.
it was so smooth, wasn't it? Via it was really it was.
I've got to blame
I
Pos
really
of
liked
that.
him.
That Blackburn game, Pos of that started that song, and then we never saw him again.
Yeah.
Yeah. See ya.
It's a shame. Fraser Campbell, the Penguin, as he was called on social media. I can't quite remember why that was the case, but he's been a really great character, Fraser Campbell, over the last 3 years. Naby Sarr as well, a brilliant character, absolutely lovely human being by the looks of things. But Fraser Campbell's
Do you know
just...
what? You're right. Someone mentioned something on those written in about like team spirit and things like that.
Yeah, these guys.
You can imagine he will be one of those that is like really important to that change room. Yeah, really important.
I think Fraser Campbell will be a huge miss. I don't think people will see it because he's obviously not played a lot this season. I know Cos is his number one fan, but Fraser Campbell, I think, off the pitch will be a huge miss for Huddersfield Town Football Club. I really do.
The Sinani one was a surprise to me, but I suppose that it might not be the end of the story. But
I thought we had an agreement on that. And usually when Town have an agreement, it's usually like appearance based or something. I don't even think it was that, but usually it's an appearance based thing. But Dean Smith said about 6 weeks ago that he was looking forward to getting Denel Sinani back at Norwich and having a look at him. So that was when I thought, oh, maybe we're not signing him. So it was interesting, I think I would have taken the plunge on Sinani because sometimes it's better the devil you know, and his delivery is good. I think with a pre-season with Carlos, more improvements, more developing, I think he could be a decent player. I do. He's never going to be quick, but I think he's got a really good left foot and he's quite clever in a lot of things, what he does, and his pressing's pretty good. If he was available for like the 500, 600k, which I saw rumoured, then for me, that would have been an easy yes, really. If it's anything more than that, then there's more of a decision, but... I was surprised, but
I like him, but I don't think he's got another level.
No, I think what he's done this year is decent, but I think he would probably be a bit more in games, if you like. I don't think we're looking at a future Premier League player, but I think he'd at this level he'll be in games more than maybe what he has been. But decent player. Kosi needs to tell us about Reece Brown. I've got no idea who this guy is. That's been released.
Yeah, I know, unbelievable. But I tell you another guy that. It's incredible, really. Aaron Rowe, we're on about Koroma not getting involved, but Aaron Rowe was a guy who excited us.
Looked good. 12 months ago, he looked good.
Yeah, maybe he's not used to playing in front of fans, though. We haven't seen him in that this season, but no, surely he's got to come. And I know someone who kind of lives near him and speaks to him on a regular, and he seems a really good guy. So a guy who's in it for the long haul, really, and that as well. So
is he fit as well? Has he been fit?
He had a foot problem until after Christmas, didn't he? And he missed a lot. He missed pre-season. He missed all sorts. So I think fitness has been Aaron Rowe's issue, really. I like Aaron Rowe. I think there's a player there. I do think there's a player there. Hopefully,
I think it's quite interesting though, isn't it? Because some fans are buggers out there. But I saw someone today. Well, they're on about the recruitment team, but what about Carol Lighting? He was absolute garbage and. Tino's been poor and black. So it's like, God, give him a chance, man. It's pretty much faultless recruitment, but it is...
Carol Lighting was a brilliant... We were so excited with Lighting, weren't we? Yeah. But John Russell just kept him out. I think that's just the way it was. John Russell's level went up and I think they looked at John Russell and thought, this guy's going to be here for 2-3 years. We'll give him the development time.
What about... Because Ruffles and Toffolo and
absolutely.
That as well, it's like you get someone in, right? Shit, I better perform now. Where other seasons we've had, it's like guaranteed a spot every other week.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
What about this? What about this Grant kid? Because every time I look on social media, he's just like having a beef, partying, or like.
Danny Grant.
Is he fit? Is he going to be fit or?
Danny Grant. I hope so. He had those hamstring problems, didn't he? I felt so sorry for him because. When he first joined, he was doing part-time training and he tore his hamstring. And then he came back, tore his other hamstring. So both of them went. And for a flying winger, that's, it's a bad thing. And then he got long COVID as well, and he had COVID issues. And he's had a really, and he's been living by himself through lockdown after coming over from Ireland. He's had it really tough as Danny Grant. And he seems a really smashing lad to me. And his brother sometimes messages us on Facebook, not on Facebook, on Twitter, just to sort of say I might be in the cowshed this Sunday and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And he seems a really decent family and a good guy. And he's just been a victim of injuries, and I think he's struggled to adapt to full-time training. He's from something I read, and I think he just needs to build up from what he's doing to full-time training, and hopefully he makes a dash next year. He might go out on loan. So I'm hopeful for Danny Grant, but Levi Colwill. What a miss Levi Colwill's going to be, Cosley.
Oh, mate, it was brilliant after the game on Sunday in that bar, because obviously a lot of swilled up Town fans and all kinds of carry on and stuff in there. But he had to put away every one of them. Big smile on his face, mate, when he must have been absolutely hurting inside, especially obviously scoring the goal. And Tino were good as well, and that as well. I just think looking at that, I think we know what we need. We just want a bit more flair. You touched on it, Phil. And if you think how Corberan changed his kind of style this season to make us more solid and stuff, and probably at the expense of some kind of better football to watch. I thought the COVID season at times we were much more exciting, but obviously the results were awful. But so it's part of his development. I think next season I'd be like to see a few kind of flair players in there and that as well, because I remember that Luton second leg. The only time I think we threatened with Thomas again in the final, didn't make most of it, but he was the only one where teams are backing off thinking, oh my God, we just need a few more of those. I think Tino were obviously meant to be that man, but for whatever reason, he's just not
fitness again.
Yeah,
would you? Did you go to Coventry, Cos? Did you see Tino against Coventry? He was phenomenal for 20 minutes. Honestly, he came on and he looked fit and he was superb. If we could get that guy back next season, it would be a no-brainer, because he was unreal for that short burst.
I love it. Tino was class for 20 minutes.
Well, he came on as sub, didn't he?
And his best penalty taker we've had for 20 years.
Well, have you seen the other penalties we've had in the last sort of few years? But Tino was honestly that game, and he came on against Bristol City as well, didn't he, as a sub, and did pretty well. And that's it really. He's gone back. It'd be interesting to see if we could bring him back next season fully fit and see what he could do, because I do think there'll be something different there.
Do you know what? I read his post, and I think he was really grateful for the fact that he had the opportunity to come, even though he was injured.
He seems a good guy, a good kid as well.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm hoping that he's got a level head on his shoulder and realise that sometimes it probably wasn't the right time to bring him on and get him involved, and that's what I'm hoping, because it would be nice, to be honest, if we can get him back next year.
Yeah, and Josh Marsh has left as well. Oh no, please don't go, Josh. So he's left the club as well. So
mixed up straight away, though, hasn't he?
Swansea. He's got a big promotion as Josh Marsh. He's gone to head of football. So he's on Bromby's level now.
But
fair play.
The biggest loss, mate, the guy who we'll have bastard on this podcast week in and week out, Mr. Instagram.
Oh, Tom Gomersall. Do you know the quality of the video? Oh, poor Tom. I remember when we started this podcast and people were sort of in the second season of the Premier League, and people were going, "Oh, why are we so shit? It must be either that bloody podcast or that ginger kid on Instagram." And he got so much shit from Huddersfield fans, didn't he?
Horrendous.
Because they thought it was some kind of Jonah, didn't they? And to be fair, he seems a really nice guy doing a good job, and he's and a lot of the video work that the club have done in the last few years has been excellent, and he's been behind a lot of it. So
into the country that Luton game, and he comes across as a really nice guy. So it was sad to see.
I think he's got a job at Spurs, and it just shows that you do a good job at Huddersfield Town, you go on and get rewarded. So well done to him. He deserves it. So well done, Tom Gomersall. So Josh has gone. What that means for the other scouts, I'm not sure yet, and whether it means Josh will be taking our player list to Swansea with Mr. Winter, who knows?
No.
It may be interesting to see if we do get linked with the same players, Huddersfield and Swansea, because that will be quite amusing. But yes, so let's have a quick glance at what's going on in the comments. There's a lot about Fraser Campbell going on here. So let me have a look. We've got... Dag Barnett says, I don't think Carlos would stay if he didn't think he would be allowed to make overall improvements. I'm hopeful we have a plan. JH7 says, great to see the option taken on Koroma, but now get rid at the right price. Richard Hookie says, I love O'Brien, but would like the money really. Want Toff to stay. Happy with the rest. Bob Large, most interesting thing in the retained list was differences between first team and B team. Gives an insight into where the likes of Romani, Harrott, Daly, Critchlow, etc. are currently seen. Tom says he thought we'd have kept Campbell, potentially ease into a coaching role, to which Lee Oates says he might do a community job role at Town, which would suit Fraser if he wasn't going to play. But I would imagine Fraser's still got a couple of years left to offer, sort of League One, League Two. I'll be honest.
Bradford, doesn't it now? That's where you go.
It'd do all right. Yeah, it'd do all right. Best player they'd seen for the last 10 years, I think. Don Rico III says Rowe, Reg, Diarra and Kamara to all push for regular starts next season. Honestly, Etienne Kamara is a player. He's not been out on loan yet, so he's a player. The bits I've seen, he's very, very, very cool. very angry sometimes, but he's a very, very cool player. Left-footed central midfielder, very sort of shades of Billing meets Jonathan Hogg, that sort of angry, aggressive type. So look out for him when he's on his way through.
Fans will love him then, won't they?
Yeah, Leo says Sudan has got no X factor. Yeah, possibly. I think unless you count his corner taking, because he does take a decent corner, doesn't he? A decent set piece. And then Karoma. Rolando Aarons has been mentioned. Kosi, that's the red rag to my bull. Is that? But JH7 says Karoma and Aarons can leave for me. Too much messing about on social media. More Love Islanders than footballers. Aarons isn't getting much love. Poor Rolando's not getting much love. But Josh Karoma, I still think can come again. I still think there's a player there with Josh Karoma. So we'll see what happens over pre-season, because he missed a lot of pre-season with COVID as well, and these things seem to have a big knock-on effect for players, so we'll see. We are going to have an end-of-season review coming up, and this is going to be a bit of a special one because we are going to join forces with people who have feathers. So read into that what you will, and we are going to try and do it at Magic Rock live in front of a crowd. So keep your eyes peeled. Brady is going to sort some of the logistics on that one, but hopefully in a couple of weeks' time we may do a podcast at Magic Rock. It may go through, it may not. There's a couple of things to sort out. Whether this stupid Wirecast program will work over there is another thing as well. So I need to make sure that we've got the equipment to do that first. If we don't do it, it's probably going to be my fault. So there we go. So yeah, keep your eyes out for that. It'll be really good. Thank you to everybody online that's been watching this. If you could also click the like button again, because not hardly any of you did, that would be really good.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone who sent a comment about them videos that I did, or the people that I met at Wembley. Honestly, some of the nicest. I couldn't believe it. Like the man, content man at Sky, who says incredible. Like the love for the pause, the love for Huddersfield Town, and that as well. Honestly, I know our fans sometimes get a bad press, but I have been absolutely blown away. We have some amazing fans that, proper fans, level-headed fans, just nice people. And honestly, I just want to say thank you to everyone, and thanks for all the kind comments about the podcast. Because you know what, when you're like working mad hours like we all do, and you think, God, I'll log on at 9 o'clock and stuff, it just makes it all worthwhile. So I want to, bit emotional, but I just want to say thanks to everyone and that as well, because that's the reason why we do it for you guys and that as well, and all your honesty. And honestly, I was blown away by the love. It was just amazing. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So I think that's it. So keep an eye. Thanks you guys for getting involved. That's all we've got time for this evening. So unless Kosi, Phil have got anything you would like to bring up, Phil, hopefully not your tea.
Broken heart, innit, mate? Yeah.
I know.
Give over.
Don't go breaking my heart.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Come back stronger.
It is.
Yeah, we will.
Let's roll in the credits, and thanks to Chris Carter as well, who's a top man. Poor Chris, born and raised in Nottingham, who does this Smile a While song, and he has had so much shit over the last few days. So it could be worse. You could be Chris.
County, mate.
It could be worse. It could be worse, exactly. It could be Chris Carter. But if you were Chris Carter, you would have this magnificent singing voice. So thanks, everyone. We'll catch you again.
Don't forget to...
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.